Hi, my name is Sabine Zimmermann and you're listening to Postcards from the Province, our podcast for the regions of Europe. In March, the Network for Culture and Local Traditions, in cooperation with the bidding office Hildesheim 2025, organized the Province Lab. We invited 8 international experts who visited Hildesheim and the region and exchanged with the locals. Now, 2 months later, we talk again. What changed in Europe in the meantime? And how can we take the next step from European capital to European province of culture?
Hello, Sabine. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm Christine Sell. I live in Huntly, which is a small town in northeast Scotland, a population of about 3,000. I'm a retired teacher. I still work part-time. And I was delighted to be invited to Hildesheim for the European Province Lab.
This Province Lab took part in March, but I think it seems to be ages ago, doesn't it? And Europe has changed since these last 2 months. But what pictures come up to you when you think of our Province Lab, Christine?
I think the overriding pictures are, I think it was the hospitality that I met everywhere. So in Hildesheim and then Freden, which is the place I went to visit, hospitality and friendliness. The other thing, overriding thing that struck me was that the lab brought people from all over the EU to meet and work together and to create friendships, connections, and to learn from each other. And obviously, coming from the UK, it was quite poignant because it was such a positive thing, and it made me really feel what we were losing in leaving the EU. I thought it was such a lovely thing.
As you mentioned, you will be a third country in some more month, and I can tell you we are not happy about that. It's a loss, absolutely. I don't understand that decision of the UK, but. Nevertheless, let's talk about our Province Lab. Yeah. So, well, of course, it was a different time. We met open borders, and now everything has changed. And you mentioned our hospitality in the region. Actually, I was really very amazed about our locals who welcomed our guests with open arms and were so friendly and open-hearted. This was really overwhelming. And do you think that this would happen in Huntly too?
Oh, good question. I think if it was organised, yes. If I think perhaps it comes from people being asked to do something, so that perhaps people don't, just do it off. But if people are asked, and I think it was the fact that people were asked to show people around and talk about their town, and I think that generated a sort of pride in what they were doing, and that they wanted to share it with people, and realizing that other people were interested in where they live and wanted to find out more. So I think it was like a mutual sharing. And I think, so if the same happened, that groups of people came to Huntly, in fact, that has happened in the past year because we've had people from Finland come. And I think, yes, they did get the same welcome of, being hosted and things put on for them. Yeah.
You, of course, know why I invited you to our province lab, but for our audience, it should be a hint to tell something about your work in Scotland, in Huntly, and maybe you could show a little bit about your Deveron projects to get our audience an idea of what is going on in the Scottish hinterland.
Okay. So the town that I live in is Huntly. It's very small, but we're very lucky to have an arts organisation called Deveron Projects based in the town, and I'm a board member of the organisation. And Deveron Projects, it's a socially engaged art organisation, and it's been very inspired by the thinking of Patrick Geddes, who his philosophy is to think global but act local. So Deveron Projects invites artists from all over the world for residencies to live and work in Huntly and engage in the community. And I think it really enlivens the town, and I think it can challenge people in the community and gives us a more global outlook, which I think is very important, because I suppose it could be possible for, the provinces to become inward-looking. And I think when you've got these groups working in towns and cities, it just creates this more outward-looking international outlook. And I think, I hope we're talking about Freden, but I think the same thing happens in Freden, where I visited, where because of the International Music Festival, that they're getting people from all over. And yes, again, an international outlook.
And you have been here for almost 1 week. And you got a little insight of our region. We took a bus tour, and you have been to Freden for 3 days. And do you think that it is possible to compare the regions, the provincial places all over Europe, or even your Scottish hinterland and these German province of, maybe province of culture too, but this province, do you think there is any possibility to compare this?
I think, I mean that was the real value of the lab, was being able to see the similarities and differences. And I think because Freden, being a similar size to Huntly, it's facing the same problems that we have, which is closed shops, restaurants, hotels, transport problems,
yes.
And
you can sing,
population.
you can sing a song about the transport problems too. Just a hint for our audience: it happened 2 times that you were stopped by the Deutsche Bahn. Unfortunately,
yes, I spent an extra hour each time at Alhof.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah. No, not at all. It's, but these things make such a. It's how it influences people in whether they go to live in a place, if they know that they can travel to work, or travel easily to get to cultural things, and so it's so important for a town having reasonable transport. And we face the same problems as well. That it's very few buses in the area, or you can travel in a straight line, but you can't go any other directions. Yes, the other similarity is that even though these towns face these problems, that what you see is that individuals and groups and community groups work together to make the towns a better place, and I think it's the people that live in the town have a pride in the town and want the places to succeed. And in Freden, I was really impressed by the things created by the community. One was the Dorfladen, which so the supermarket had closed, and the community of Freden clubbed together to buy the shop and then run it as a not-for-profit supermarket. And when we visited, we went and we had, there's tables there and you can get a sandwich and a drink. I was just so impressed by the sense of community and ownership. There was a lovely atmosphere, and I just felt it was their shop rather than a shop, a supermarket owned by a big company. The other thing was the Zeenscheune, which so the Freden community had used money that had been given by the council and refurbished it, and then that became home to the International Freden Music Festival. So every year is a week of classical music, and people come from all over, I think all over the world, to visit. But what I think is exceptional, because probably a lot of places might have music festivals, but the musicians and the audience are all hosted by people in the town, because there's no hotels. And I think that's just such a lovely thing, and it probably makes the festival even more special, and helps the atmosphere. I think that's lovely. The other thing that really struck me was all the stories that I heard. So I suppose we see a town, or you might go and visit a town, but actually every place has all these stories embedded in it, connected with the industries and the culture and the people that live there. And there was a real pride in telling these stories, and it brought Freden to life for me. And I thought it would be lovely. Well, I think it's very important that these stories are recorded and kept. And the other thing was the availability of good food in the area. So this is more on the outskirts of the town, but there's Lunahof, which is an award-winning organic farm. So it has its own shop, and then once a month they do a meal which uses their own produce. It's a 3-course meal that has to be booked, but it's an example of, I suppose, using the best products and local products, well, in fact, own-produced products. And there's also a very popular fish restaurant which produces its own fish, and people visit that a lot. I was going to say something else, I can't remember. I've really enjoyed my visit. I've made friends there, and I'm definitely going to return. Unfortunately, the festival isn't going ahead this year, but next year I'm looking forward to returning to Freden.
Oh, well, good.
Mm-hmm. There was something else, but I didn't write it down.
No problem. Maybe it comes up again.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember now. But it was really that Freden, just to describe it, it's a small town on the outskirts of Hildesheim region. It used to have industries connected to the natural resources, which were salt and glass produced from sand from the area. Those industries have stopped now, but so now it's primarily a rural area with farms and forestry around, and it's a very lovely area, lovely walks all around, which yes, I could highly recommend. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very romantic place, isn't it?
It is, yes. Yes, I mean the river, and it's interesting because the river goes through it. It actually has two parts to the town. So there's, I can't remember if it's Big Freden and Small Freden, and but it's divided by the river and the railway line. So it's unusual, but it's beautiful. Special place, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe to use the metaphor of our beat, it's maybe one of the crystals we have in the region, and that makes Hildesheim and the regions shiny. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. There is one thing I was add because perhaps if it was the third question about how the coronavirus crisis has affected Europe. But I think places like Freden and Huntly, I've found that because of the lockdown that, we're still in lockdown in Scotland, so that we don't travel now to beauty spots. We just walk around our environment and our own surroundings. And I think that a lot of people are rediscovering our own surroundings and appreciating them more. And that, so it's the valuing local things more. And that I felt that suddenly I've appreciated living in a rural area because I can go for long walks. Whereas I think, if you're in a town, that's not been so easy. And I think that perhaps this crisis might make people think about the value of these small places and the beauty of living in these small places. To me, it has. It's done that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Maybe these. I don't remember the right word.
Disadvantage?
Yes, thank you, teacher. Maybe the disadvantage of the rural areas turns into something really outstanding and now is a possibility and an advantage. In listening to you, something comes up to my mind too. Do you think that the smaller places out of the metropolises are more resilient?
I wonder. I mean, it's difficult to say because obviously not being in a metropolis, I can only judge it from looking at the news. But I think, for example, if the crisis got worse, that perhaps these smaller communities, you might have more access to fresh food, and perhaps there might be being more used to being a bit self-sufficient. Because I think, for example, where I live, it's compact. It really has everything that you need, so that even though we're not meant to drive anywhere, it hasn't really mattered because, Huntly, you can walk anywhere you want. You don't. That's so small that you can walk from one end to the other. So I think that perhaps the crisis will make people look and think, perhaps what sort of a place do they want to live, and think, well, perhaps sometimes is it worth putting up with some disadvantages in order to get some other benefits.
Would you, I think again about Freden, would you suggest people from our region, as we cannot travel and we don't have maybe the possibility to make a holiday in Hawaii or Australia or even in Norway or where else, would you suggest to travel to Freden?
Oh yes, definitely. I think it's got so much to offer, and lovely walks roundabout, and I suppose I did have the advantage of having people to explain things. Yes, I'm thinking, what would be good is if it could be developed so that, there are walks signposted and, information, because I think it just gives so much. Mind you, having said that, a walk of discovery is always really good, but a little map would be useful. And for example, there's an island, and it's got the old glass factory on, and it's just interesting to know, well, that is the old glass factory. And but yes, you can walk for miles, and it's very, very peaceful. And you can also the cycle routes as well. Some very nice cycle routes, and there must be maps for them. To use your slogan from Huntly, which I really like, Freden is also a good place to roam, a room to roam, to explore, and that's I really love that slogan. It's really wonderful. It opens a lot of, gives a lot of opportunities to think about it. So, Christine, I think we're coming to an end. Is there anything else you would like to address to our audience? No, I was just, it was a really wonderful experience to visit Hildesheim and the province. So really just to thank you for that. And yes, I'm looking forward to coming back sometime. And to visit, explore Hildesheim, because I didn't really have time to visit the places there, and I didn't go to the cathedral, and so I must come back sometime.
So you're very welcome to do so. And
yes, it wasn't for a while, sadly.
I hope we will meet at last next year in Freden, maybe before that, and I hope of course in 2025, when we will be European Capital of Culture, hopefully. Yes.
Well, I hope so, and I look forward to that. I look forward to hearing the news. But I think you deserve it.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for this interview, for the time you gave me and shared with me. And I keep my fingers crossed for you and Huntly, and for us all to come through this crisis and go through. And I really, really hope we will meet again, Christine. Okay?
Well, thank you, Sabine, and it's been lovely to speak to you again, and brings back memories of my visits, and yes.
Yeah. Okay, so have a nice day, and see you soon, hopefully. Bye-bye, Christine.
Yes, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye, Sabine.
Bye.
Bye.